سلام عرض میکنم خدمت همه دوستانی که برای دیدن این ویدیو وقت میذارید. قبل از هر چیز معذرت میخوام بابت وقفه‌ای که در 2 هفته گذشته در برنامه من ایجاد شده. حقیقتش هم من بسیاری فعالین دیگر و کلا افکار عمومی کردستان هنوز در شوک اون فاجعه‌ای هستن که 2 هفته پیش در گروه کومله عبدالله مهتدی روی داد و متاسفانه پس از 2 هفته سکوت که ایشان صحبت کردند مسئله رو پیچیده تر کرد و بسیار یادآور سخنرانی‌های خامنه‌ای بود. کلیگویی و رفع مسئولیت از خود و یک سری شعار دادن و تکرار مکررات و وعده‌های تو خالی و دستور پیگیری که می‌بینیم امیدی بهش نیست. اما تصور می‌کنم که افکار عمومی کردستان به ایشان اجازه فراموش کردن این مسئله بدون سلب مسئولیت رو نمیده. در عوض در گروه مقابل تحولات مثبتی روی داد. کومله زحمتکشان آقای رضا کعبی رو به عنوان دبیرکل خود به صورت موقت انتخاب کرد و خانم فریبا محمدی به عنوان سخنگوی این حزب معرفی شد. آقای کعبی از شخصیت‌های مبارز و بسیار خوشنام کومله هست، از خانواده بسیار خوشنام و مبارز. 2 تن از خواهرانش از جانباختگان و از اعدامی‌های اول انقلاب هستند در شهرستان سقز. برادراش از شخصیت‌های دانشگاهی و آکادمیک هستند. یکی از برادراشون در دانشگاه LSE در لندن استاد دانشگاه هستند، استاد تاریخ هستند. خودشون هم انسان بسیار آگاه، باسواد و سالمی هستند. خانم فریبا محمدی هم از چهره‌های برجسته کومله هست و از زنان مبارز کومله که اتفاقا هیچ گونه وابستگی یا نسبت سببی یا نسبی با مسئولین کومله نداره. آدم خودساخته‌ای است. براشون آرزوی موفقیت میکنم. این هفته میخوام شما رو ویدیویی رو براشون به اشتراک بذارم از یک سمیناری که در دانشگاه اکستر داشتم. بریسمس، همون انجمن بریتانیایی مطالعات خاورمیانه، یک انجمن مطالعات خاورمیانه است که صدها پژوهشگر و استاد دانشگاه هر سال دور هم جمع میشن و به بررسی آخرین تحولات خاورمیانه و همچنین معرفی کارهای جدید خودشون میپردازن. هر سال در یکی از دانشگاه‌های بریتانیا برگزار میشه. این کنفرانس پارسال در دانشگاه سنت اندروز بود در اسکاتلند. به امسال در دانشگاه اکستر برگزار شد روزهای 3، 4 و 5 جولای سال 2023. سخنران اصلی این کنفرانس که از کانادا دعوت شده بودن خانم پروفسور شهرزاد مجاب بود. شهرزاد مجاب شخصیتی بسیار ارزشمند که واقعا باید ایشان را شناخت. ایشان گفتاری رو ارائه دادن در مورد انقلاب زن، زندگی، آزادی که من در 1 سال اخیر مشابه اون رو با این سطح کیفیت بالا ندیده بودم. تحلیلی بسیار عمیق، ارتباط میان گذشته و اکنون، یادآوری شکلگیری هسته‌های اول مبارزه در اول انقلاب علیه جمهوری اسلامی. خانم مجاب من میدونستم که شیرازی هستن، ولی نمیدونستم که چندین سال در دوران جوانی در صفوف مبارزان کومله مبارزه کردند. ایشان از زنان مبارزه کومله بودند. همسر ایشان زنده یاد پروفسور امیر حسن‌پور از شخصیت‌های بسیار بزرگ، یک غول آکادمیک بود که متاسفانه سال 2017 فوت شدن. ایشون 10 ها شاید 100 ها اثر ارزشمند از خودشون به یادگار گذاشتند و 100 ها دانش آموز و شاگرد مثل من هر روز ایشون رو از یاد میگیریم از ایشون هنوز هم در آثارش زنده است و خانم مجاب واقعا شخصیتی همتراز زنده یاد حسن‌پور. متاسفانه از راز کپی رایت اجازه فیلمبرداری از سخنرانی ایشون نبود، ولی فکر کنم یکی از دوستان تونسته بود بخش از سخنرانی رو به صورت صدا فایل صوتی ضبط کنه. اگر دسترسی داشتم سعی میکنم متن سخنرانیشون رو پیاده کنم و ترجمه کنم. در روز دوم، روز سه‌شنبه 4 جولای، منم در یکی از پنل ها که در مورد اسلام سیاسی در خاورمیانه بود پریزنتیشنی داشتم و چند 10-12 دقیقه‌ای در مورد سیاست متفاوت کردها در خاورمیانه صحبت کردم و اینکه چه میشه از این سیاستی یاد گرفت که در خاورمیانه‌ای که درگیر اسلام سیاسی شده و کردها درگیر اسلام سیاسی نشدند، آیا میشه برای ریشه‌یابی مشکلات گذشته از این مثال نقص استفاده کرد این سوال تاریخی هنوزم وجود داره که منشأ مشکلات خاورمیانه آیا به 100 سال پیش برمیگرده یا صدها سال پیش یا هزارها سال پیش. تصور میکنم پرداختن به جنبش کردها میتونه در یافتن پاسخی صحیح به این سوال ما رو کمک کنه و همچنین در مورد آینده خاورمیانه هم. خاورمیانه‌ای خسته از فساد و دیکتاتوری و آلوده به اسلام سیاسی متاسفانه چگونه میتونه از تجربه کردها برای زنده نگه داشتن سکولاریزم و نیفتادن به دام اسلام سیاسی استفاده کنه. این متن سخنرانی من بود که این رو در این ویدیو میبینید. زیرنویس فارسی هم ارائه شده. امیدوارم در آینده اگه بشه اینو با صداگذاری کردی هم بتونم منتشر کنم. هفته آینده هم در مورد انقلاب ایران، منشأ این انقلاب، نحوه شکلگیریش صحبت خواهم کرد. آیا این یک انقلاب بود یا یک شورش آنگونه که سلطنت طلبها میگویند؟ آیا اون یک انقلاب اسلامی بود یا یک انقلابی که توسط خمینی دزدیده شد که معمولا توسط کمونیست‌ها و سایر جریانات غیر مذهبی ولی مشارکت کننده در انقلاب گفته میشه؟ و همچنین که آیا این انقلاب در کردستان هم اعتبار داشت یا در آنجا ضد انقلاب بود و به نحوی کردستان اشغال شد؟ هفته آینده به این مقولات میپردازم. این هفته لطف کنید به این متن صحبت‌های من در مورد جنبش سکولار کردها در تقابل با اسلام سیاسی خاورمیانه توجه بفرمایید. خیلی ممنون.
Good morning, everyone, and thanks for coming and joining us on this panel. Thanks to the Bریسمس and University of Ekster who organized this event and provide this opportunity for me to discuss my topic. Today I will talk about Kurdish politics in Middle East, but before that I want to pay tribute to Professor Amir Hassanpour, a Kurdish academic veteran who I met here in this building in 2009 in the first international conference on Kurdish studies in Exeter. He left us in 2017, but since then I read his name, I write his name, I use his references, his works as part of my study, and he is really still alive in his works, and I'm still his every single day student. And today it's really grateful that his beloved partner, Professor Shehrzad Mojab, is the keynote speaker of this conference. I invite you please to participate in her speech exactly following this panel at 11 a.m. Okay, good morning again. Thanks for coming and joining us. Today I will talk about Kurdish politics in the Middle East, and my topic title is Secularism versus Political Islam. First, I must introduce my research questions and explain how it relates to the political Islam in the Middle East. My research started with these questions. Why within 4 countries in the Middle East, Iran, Iraq, Turkey, and Syria, that all have been involved with political Islam, the Kurds and their movements have not turned to Islamism at any time in the Middle East history? It does not mean there is not any Islamic groups in Kurdistan, but the Islamists never became the dominant group in Kurdish societies, and nor was the mainstream of Kurdish politics. For instance, following the 1979 Iranian Islamic Revolution, the Kurdish societies and Kurdish political parties followed a complementary, different trajectory from the rest of Iran. Also in Iraq, following the fall of Saddam Hussein in 2003, the mainstream of Iraqi politics has been Islamic in both Shia and Sunni Arab communities. However, despite some minor Islamic parties and organizations, the Iraqi Kurds have still secular political system. Syria, following the Arab uprising in 2011, this country became the battlefield of Shia and Sunnis direct and proxy wars. But the Kurds in the northern regions of Syria have taken a third way and established a secular system of governance based on ethnic and cultural and religious coexistence, emphasizing women's rights and minority rights. The same in Turkey, while since 2002, the Islamic Justice and Development Party has been the ruling party, and following the recent elections, it might be in power in the next coming years. Still, the Kurdish movement has followed the secular ideology of resistance, both in legal framework via People's Democratic Party, the HDP, and the guerrilla campaign by the PKK. Despite still again some groups of Kurds tending to Islamism and voting for the ruling party in some elections, but the mainstream of Kurdish politics in Turkey is still secular, with strong connections with the left-wing groups of the Turkish opposition. Then I must find the reasons for the reasons that differentiate the Kurdish political situation from the other nations and ethnic groups in the Middle East, and find the reasons for Kurdish resistance against both its assimilations and Islamizations of their society. It must be mentioned that despite highlighting the secular and democratic aspects of Kurdish movement, my study doesn't present Kurdish performance as a perfect and fully democratic. It accepts there are several examples of misconducts in Kurdish movement, but they have just obtained a better result than the other political system in the Middle East, considering all attempts to implement democratic and secular political systems in these countries have all failed. Iranian, Turkish, and Arabic versions of secularism have failed, but Kurdish secularism is still alive and has survived among the 4 Islamic political systems in the region. There are some of my sub-research questions. First, have Kurdish leftist groups and political parties participated in preserving secularism in Kurdish movement? Does nationalism and democracy can go hand in hand in Kurdish case? And more important, can this Kurdish experience in keeping politics away from religion be used in other societies in the Middle East, especially in the other regions of Iran, Iraq, Turkey, and Syria? Some domestic and cultural factors also must be addressed to find the reasons for this different political behavior. For instance, the role of Kurdish women in their society, the role of Kurdish religious leaders who had positive views on Kurdish nationalistic feeling and minority rights and women's rights. Now, after introducing these research questions and sub-research questions, let me talk about the importance of this research. First, regarding the past, regarding the Middle East history. This study can contribute to finding the origins of conflict and the reasons for democracy deficit in the region. Second, regarding the future, this research can contribute to building a better Middle East politics. First, regarding the past, huge debates exist about the reasons of conflict and the lack of democratic system in the region. Some scholars see the cultural and religious factors back thousands of years to explain the democratic deficit in the Middle East. Some others emphasize the absence of a social development process that happened in Western modernizations and democratizations since the 17th century. And the last group believe the current social and political conflicts in the Middle East goes back just to 100 years ago, following a series of events since 1918, including the creation of states and borders based on the European desires, the establishment of Israel, rising the oil as a factor of international political economy, the rivalry between colonial powers and later superpowers in the Middle East, etc. Samuel Huntington and his famous Clash of Civilizations, and also Bernard Lewis in his work Islam and the West, are the pioneer scholars who see religion as the source of conflict in the Middle East. But on the other side, religious leaders like Khomeini and bin Laden also agree with them that the roots of conflict back to thousands of years ago. None of them can provide any solution better than defeating and destroying the other side. Also, none of them explain that the Kurds are also Muslims and have not paved the Western styles of social progress. Still, they have provided an acceptable level of secularism, social liberty, and democracy. It looks that Kurdish politics may be a counter-example of the first and the second schools of thought, and approves the third one, which emphasizes the socio-political events since 1918 as the main origins of conflict in the Middle East, including the lack of a democratic system and the rise of political Islam. Political Islam was not the first option for the people in the region, but the failure of all modern ideologies since 1918, including secularism, forced many people to turn towards Islamism as the only remaining option. These countries started their modernization process in the channel of secularism since the early years of the 20th century, but all these four countries have failed, provided a copy of secularism intertwined with totalitarians, dictatorship, and single-party system in both republican and monarchy frameworks. But given the Kurds have not failed in this regard, and their secular system is still alive, then they have not turned to political Islam. It helps us to understand the origins of wrongdoing in the Middle East go not back to thousands of years ago or more than 400 years ago as European, but mostly to just 100 years ago. And the importance of this research regarding the future. While the democratic deficit has become the main feature of all Islamic ruling parties in the region and all Islamic regimes in the Middle East, and also the very famous, or I can say notorious, export of democracy from the US also failed, especially in Iraq and in Afghanistan, then it is worth paying attention to the potential sources of democracy within the region. Studying Kurdish movement can contribute new knowledge about the origins of secularization and democratization in a better format. Finding the origins of democratic values within the local societies, in this case, Kurdish societies, might be helpful in expanding it to the other communities across the region. And to find the possibility of such exports of experience, I will assess whether Kurdish movement is too much specific to be exported to other parts of the region, or no, there are many similarities between all Middle Eastern cultural and political systems. Just with some changes and updates, the Kurdish experience could be possible to generalize to other regions of the Middle East and to find a remedy for the Middle East shortages of democracy and liberty. Thanks again for your attendance. I hope in the next conference in 2024, I can share with you my final findings of my research. Thank you.